Hey there, friends. Welcome to week 2 of our Healing Starts at Home series. I'm Beth Krause from Grace Anatomy Functional Health, and today we're going to talk about something that may be secretly messing with your energy, your mood, your memory, and maybe even your faith in your body's ability to heal. And it's not your attitude, and it's not definitely your hormones. It's called inflammation. But hold on. When we say inflammation, what does that remind you of? Right. It usually reminds you of the kind of inflammation that we can see, right? When we have like inflamed joints, a swollen knee, or even like an inflamed throat. You can't see that, but you can definitely feel like when your throat is inflamed or you've got swollen lymph nodes. But I'm talking about cellular inflammation, that quiet kind that kind of lives deep inside your tissues, and it affects everything from your brain to your belly, your intestines. And today I'm going to break it all down in simple terms because I believe you deserve to understand what's going on in your own body. So we'll unpack what causes the cellular inflammation, how it impacts your brain, how stress and past trauma keep that fire kind of burning, and how certain rogue cells that are like health hoarders refuse to leave your home. I'll also share how we support clients using nutrition and detox strategies and targeted tools from the nutraceuticals and herbs, including the senolytic cleanse that I recommend that's very gentle and it helps our body take out that trash. So does that sound good? Great. Let's get going. Let's make this really simple. I want you to understand what the cellular inflammation is because a lot of people just don't connect that to your overall general health. Your body is made up of tiny building blocks, and we know this because everything has cells, right? When something irritates or stresses those cells, it can be like sugar, chemicals, toxins, processed foods, too little of sleep, or way too much stress. Your body sends out this team of rescuers, and that actually is inflammation. Inflammation is a normal and a healthy response to these situations, but only in short bursts. We should not be in a chronic state of inflammation. But this is the problem. If the irritation never stops, our cells stay inflamed and they act like they're under attack 24/7. That's like a fire alarm that never shuts off. And if you get stuck living in this constant survival mode, these are some things that you can feel like. How about waking up feeling tired after you slept actually all night? What about being bloated after meals? How about feeling puffy or irritable or maybe even a little foggy? How about starting to nap or snap or be irritable at kids, or even maybe they're not your kids, but you hear crying and that irritates you, or it's like fingernails on a chalkboard? Or what about being over emotional or finding yourself crying even at commercials? Yeah. You know what? I have totally been there. And I'm sure many of you can understand this. When I'm looking at functional labs, I can see these stressors show up in elevations in certain markers, in certain blood work markers. So I'm looking at, and I'm just going to give you a couple of them. I'm looking at elevated CRP or homocysteine levels. But even if your labs look normal, inflammation can still be simmering below the surface. So let's talk about that gut-brain barrier. Have you ever felt like your brain might be on fire? Well, you're talking to a migraine sufferer. And actually, right now I'm feeling like a migraine conqueror because I can tell you I have had migraines since my late teens. And so for over 35 years, I have suffered with migraines. I have not had a migraine since October of 2024. It is now May of 2025. I was having anywhere from, I thought normal was not going to the emergency room. I was having anywhere from 12 to 22 migraines a month, some of them extremely violent. And working with a very skilled neurological team, but then changing some very strategic things as of October, I no longer have had a migraine, and that is unheard of for my situation. Later on this week, or the beginning of next, I'll be sharing what I changed and how that could change your life as well. And that has calmed my brain inflammation. So let's talk about this brain fog that you can get, that this inflammation, this fire inside. Your brain has a special shield called the blood-brain barrier. It's like a bodyguard that keeps harmful stuff out. But when inflammation is high, that barrier breaks down and junk gets in. This leads to that neuroinflammation. It's a fancy word for brain that's irritated, inflamed, and struggling. And how does that show up? Do you ever forget names in mid-sentence? Or walk into a room and forget why? Oh man, I've been there, done that. How about you can't concentrate, or you have trouble making decisions? Or you're anxious, but you don't know why? A lot of this actually is not here, it's in your gut. You're going, but I thought we were talking about the brain. Yeah, I know, but it's called leaky gut equals leaky brain. If the gut lining gets damaged, toxins slip into the bloodstream and eventually reach your brain. And that triggers even more inflammation. And that cycle continues. You add processed foods and lack of sleep and constant stimulation from the screens and the stress. Your poor brain is like totally overloaded. So now let's bring in the heart side of this, because the heart also plays a role. So chronic stress, the kind you live with day after day after day, does more than make you tense. It actually causes your body to make more cortisol. And cortisol is just a term for your fight or flight hormone. Too much cortisol for too long inflames your system. And here's the kicker. Even old trauma, the stuff you thought you buried years ago, can keep your body in defense mode. Your nervous system keeps sounding the alarm, and that inflammation stays high. So things that were in your past, if you've never truly dealt with it, I'm telling you, you still need to deal with it. You need to address it, not to keep rehashing it, but to actually finally let it go. So there's a way to work through that in a safe, effective way to be able to get rid of it once and for all. But it's like your body is holding its breath, waiting for something to go wrong, and it can lead to autoimmune diseases, depression, fatigue, and hormone issues. God didn't design us to carry that kind of stress forever. And there's grace and healing here too. So it's very important for us to recognize that past trauma, those past stressors, and then be able to finally release them. We can't keep stuffing them, or our body stays in that chronic state of stress and inflammation. This is where we talk about genetics and epigenetics. That chronic state of stressor, that is an epigenetic, and that starts to load whatever gene pool you were born with. So now, the zombie cells, those health hoarders, this is where it gets a little weird, and we have talked about this before. In your body, cells are supposed to live. They're supposed to work, and they're supposed to die on schedule. But sometimes our old or damaged cells don't die. They just stick around. They don't do their job, and worst of all, they cause trouble. So cells have this life cycle, like I just said, and some of them, these zombie cells, or in the medical world, they're called senescent cells, they don't divide anymore. Instead, they get stagnant. They cause like this sludge, and they cause inflammation. So we think of them more like rotten apples in a barrel, and they don't rot alone. They rot everything around them. And these zombie cells, they slow your healing. They speed up your aging. They cloud your thinking. They make your joints hurt. And they raise your risk for illness. That's why we teach our clients how to safely remove them with the Senolytic cleanse. There's all natural herbs, and it's a very gentle, easy cleanse to move your system through. It has green tea extract and quercetin, turmeric, and more herbs in it. It helps clear that trash so that your healing can actually happen. So what else can we do for our system? So the first steps to cool that fire, that inflammation fire, without extreme diets or expensive testing, is to go through the Senolytic cleanse. I have a link in the comments and down below in the description if you're interested in getting started in your cleansing of your inflammation. I encourage everyone to go through a Senolytic cleanse. I personally just finished mine. I don't expect any of my clients to do anything that I myself would not do. Also, I really highly encourage supporting your system with herbs. I even here have an apothecary, and I wild harvest herbs. I grow them in my garden. I dry them, and we use them on a daily basis here too. Good supportive herbs for inflammation And again, this depends on your constitution. If you want to know more about how to pick out herbs for you, please book a call with me and we can talk about that and discuss that more at length. But typically, supportive herbs for inflammation and calming that fire within us, turmeric helps cool inflammation in joints and in the brain. Ginger aids in digestion and circulation and inflammation. Holy basil is great for stress and blood sugar. And stinging nettle is a mineral-rich anti-inflammatory herb that loves to support the liver and the kidneys. And then also have a daily detox routine set in place. And this, again, daily, key word. Warm lemon water with some Celtic sea salt or some Himalayan pink sea salt. And we're talking a pinch, not much, each morning to start out your morning before you have anything to eat. Castor oil packs over your belly or your liver area, either nightly or at least strive for 2 to 3 times per week. Gentle movement for 10 to 15 minutes after your meals. And then right away in the morning in the sunrise. And then stinging nettle or cleaver tea for lymph support. Heal that gut-brain link that we all have. And what we can do to support that is a bone broth, bringing in amino acid like L-glutamine, or consuming fermented foods. And we're talking about consuming fermented foods. We're not talking about cups of it. We're talking about teaspoons to tablespoons at a time. Limit or avoid processed sugars, gluten, industrial seed oils, and even dairy, the inflammatory foods. Drink plenty of water and add your trace minerals. And then try to strive to get at least 7 to 9 hours. And again, setting up your sleep habit, your sleep environment, keeping it cool, keeping it dark, removing your screens, having white noise, and just setting it up as a sanctuary for good sleep. Calming your nervous system. Do this with deep breathing or box breathing. Listen to worship music. Meditate on the scriptures. Start to journal or pray, or actually go through some trauma work if you have unresolved past trauma, anger, fear, anxiety, dealing with depression. Reach out and go through the trauma healing that you need to go through to resolve that, so that the stress from within, the inflammation from within, you can get rid of. You can offload that off of your body so that you can heal, so that you can feel pain-free, so that your body can start to do the work it needs to do to release that extra fluid, that extra pain, that extra heat, that extra swelling. Release that. But you need to acknowledge it first, ground it, and then release it. If any of this hit home today, I want you to know that it's not all in your head, all right? It is in your cells, and it is something you can do. You can do something about it. But start with grace for yourself. Start with small steps and start the healing at home. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." I know this morning, if you caught my quick clip, I invited you to download my morning routine. So in the description I put my free morning routine, and it always starts with gratitude. Before your feet ever hit the ground, make sure, no matter how you wake up, you always find at least 3 things that you're grateful for. You cannot start off a day bad when you're already being grateful. Then check out the Senolytic Cleanse. If you're ready to partner with your body for real results, you'll want to go through the Senolytic Cleanse protocol. And then book a call with me. Normally I charge $297, but for a short period of time, I am going to be giving free consults. So go ahead and book that free consult with me right now. Next week, we're going to be talking about who or what might be living in your gut that doesn't belong there. What might that be? And I don't think you're going to want those pests there. But we're going to also be talking about how we can then stay rooted, stay nourished, and stay in grace. So, blessings for now, friends, and we'll see you next week for our 3rd week in a row. Healing starts at home. Have a great week. I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.